Matchmaker Monday is back. Welcome back to episode 2. Today I've got another 3 matchups. Let's get straight into it. So, the first one we have in the middleweight division, actually the middleweight championship. We have Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. This is the fight I personally want to see myself, simply because of the backstory behind it. Literally, yeah, it's almost a year ago now when Izzy got on a mic and started just going after Dricus. And Dricus versus Izzy have been back and forth non-stop for almost, seems like a year and a half now even. Definitely a year. And what scrap this would be now, in fairness. Who would I pick in this fight? It's hard to tell because Izzy's coming off the worst performance in his life, but I do think Dricus is a decent stylistic matchup for him. Someone that's going to plot it forward, can get hit, will leave gaps, isn't... See, it's difficult for me to say Dricus isn't the best because he's the champ and he's beaten everyone. But I also think he's very beatable because I think if someone has great striking, which Izzy does... Listen, everyone has off nights. Strickland was a better man that night, but that doesn't mean Izzy's washed. He literally came off the KO of Pereira. Do you know what I mean? Like a year ago, bro. That was a year ago. Just over a year ago. So, Izzy's not done. And I think the timeout is going to do him very well. And I think this is going to be a good style for him to come back to. I think Dricus is plotting forward, kind of unorthodox kind of stance with a kind of like a sloppy almost movement. It's just going to... I think it's going to leave openings for Izzy to counter-attack on. He got a counter knockout against Pereira. Same thing with Costa. When he knocked out Costa, that's when Costa was undefeated as well. So I think that's kind of a decent style for Izzy to come back to. And I just think people are sleeping on Izzy in this fight. Now I have betted against Dricus in every fight bar the Strickland fight. I did pick him to beat Sean Strickland. So it is, you can't rule him out, but I also think you can't rule Izzy out ever. Now, maybe the more favourite Izzy is, the less he performs, something like that, but I still think this fight, it should happen. And I know people are going to be bitching and crying and fucking moaning about Izzy getting an immediate rematch again, but the division is completely booked up, and Strickland versus Dricus is a main event for a middleweight title fight. It's fucking shit. Let's be honest with you, no one wants to see that ran back. Good scrap, and it was a good war. But it's hard for me to get behind them two as the best, considering Strickland got fucking annihilated by Pereira in the first round and lost to Jared Cannonier. Now, he beat Izzy, but he was coming off a fucking win against Abus Magomedov. So there's still questions about Strickland. Dricus, you can't really say much. He's beat everyone they put in front of him. He's gone on an absolute tear. Till, Whitaker, Brunson, Strickland. He is one of the best in the world. So I don't think there's anything denying him that he deserves to be where he is. But I just think he's beatable. I think he's a beatable champion. And I think Izzy will beat him. I do think Izzy actually... I feel like this could be it for Izzy. This could be his last fight, depending on his performance. Will the grappling get to him? I don't think so. I think Izzy's got really underrated grappling as regards takedown defense. And he's only been taken down and held down in one fight in a weight class that he's never fought in. So it is kind of hard to say, oh, Izzy's kind of shit on the ground. It's the blueprint. It's the blueprint, but getting him down's fucking hard. And keeping him down is even harder. But that's the fight I want to see in middleweight. It's the only fight that makes sense, and it will happen. There's like a Sydney card in September, I believe. You know, they'll do that fight, regardless of results. They want to announce it soon, because if Strickland or Costa puts on a clinic... Well, if Strickland wins, it probably... People will scream for a rematch a bit more, but I don't think people are going to be screaming for Dricus Costa if he wins, considering he's coming off that loss to Whitaker. So that's what I think, and that's what I think is going to happen next. Next, we have one in the featherweight division. The man who just took out Edson Barboza, Lerone the Miracle Murphy. And I'm going to be putting him up against Calvin Kattar. That's a great scrap. I watched Lerone against Barboza a lot better than I thought he was doing. I honestly thought Barboza was going to win that fight. I didn't think he'd have too much difficulty because I didn't really rate Lerone Murphy. I still think he's very beatable. I do think his striking's it's getting better, and I do think his striking is decent. But I think someone like a Kattar, because I feel like that would be a boxing match, I do think Kattar would win that fight. I think Kattar and him make sense. Kattar's coming off, is it 3 losses now? Emmett, Arnold, and now Sterling. I think, I could be wrong there. And he didn't have a good performance against Aljamain Sterling at all at 300. I still think Kattar's got a bit left in the tank. Will he ever win a belt? No. Will he ever get back to where he was? No. but still doesn't mean you can't compete with people like Lerone or Bryce Mitchell or something like that. You know what I mean? So Cater's still in there. I think this fight makes sense. Cater's ranked number 10 in the world, I think. Lerone's going to be number 12 or 11 when he overtakes Barbosa because the rankings haven't been changed. And it's good scrap. Lerone Murphy's kind of getting better. He's undefeated. He hasn't. That was his first big test, and he passed for flying colours. I haven't seen Manny look that dominant against Barbosa. He could have had him out in there in the second round. He's got a lot of good work up against Cage as well, which I didn't really expect Lerone. He's getting a few takedowns as well, which shows that's in his arsenal as well. So all around, Lerone actually looked very good. I must give him his credit. I didn't think he was going to beat Nathaniel Wood if that fight happened back in March. On the pay-per-view, Leon Usman 3. Wood pulled out. And Lerone didn't look great against his opponent, the Brazilian guy. I can't really remember his name. But he got the job done tonight. Short notice opponents you'd never heard of were the most dangerous ones to fight, in my opinion. The guy that gets in Barbosa, look, well-known name. Lerone went in there and cleaned him out. But some Brazilian guy you don't know making his debut in a week's notice, that's the guy you don't want to fucking fight. Trust me. Well, don't trust me, I've never done it, but still. That's a good fight. I think they will make something like that, but it's kind of hard for Lerone because you could see him against a Bryce Mitchell. I don't think he should be fighting someone like a Josh Emmett yet. But like, I think Cater is honestly the perfect fight. It's going to get either of them back up towards those Mitchells, those Emmets, the Arnolds. You know, those kind of 5th, 6th, 7th ranked fighters in that division. And it's a great step up as well because you never know. Like, Lerone, he hasn't really been tested with someone who's going to be fighting for a belt in the next 4 or 5 years. Barbosa's way past it. Honestly, he should look to retirement now. He's losing to unranked fighters. Listen, Lerone Murphy's a difficult fight for most, but I think with the name value Edson Barbosa holds, he should be doing well against people like Lerone Murphy. But he didn't. He looked kind of flat on his feet. He looked very slow. He looked gassed out in that second round. I think even a move up the lightweight could be good because he's 36 now. That gas tank is going to be quite low. Never mind that weight cut to 45. And let's not forget he was doing well at 55 when he was there. It is a good few years ago now, but still, maybe never return up there isn't too bad. But yeah, that's something I want to see. Cater versus Lerone Murphy. I think I'll make that fight next, and I think it makes the most sense for both the guys, to be honest with you. One undefeated, climbing the ranks. Calvin Cater's been known to test people. And if you can get through Cater, which I don't think Lerone Murphy would, even though I didn't think he'd get through Barbosa, you know, you're onto something there. Cater still got that name. Lerone Murphy isn't too much of a name apart from maybe England. Even then, he's still on the prelims and stuff like that. So that'd be a great way to build up his name and get more eyeballs on him, because Cater does hold the name value. Like, he was main eventing for years there, and he's probably known for one of the most famous fights ever against Max Holloway. Not in a good way for him, but still, you know what I mean. Next one, we are going to the lightweight division. Charles do Bronx Oliveira versus Mateus Gamrot. I think this one is kind of like mutual agreement for all the fans. This fight needs to happen next. It's not like this fight's ever been booked or anything, but Charles coming off a bad loss to Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 300. He didn't look great in that fight. A lot of people thought Charles could have won that fight. I probably would have gave it to Charles, but it was the flip of a coin, to be quite honest with you. Like 50-50. Charles just looked flat at his feet. You know, it's not the Charles we saw 2 years ago against Gaethje when he's marching forward, wasn't afraid of fucking nothing. I do think the Islam fight kind of played a big factor in his confidence. I think the fact he was getting knocked down. Well, Charles has gotten knocked down before, but the fact I feel like he was neutralised on the ground, I felt was a massive factor, because back in the day, if you went to the ground with Charles Oliveira, you were fucked. This guy has the most submission wins in UFC history. And people see the Islam fight and like, oh shit, he can just get taken down and controlled. And Arman, that's probably what won the fight. Now Mateus Gamrot, he has a win over Arman Tsarukyan. Now MMA math does not always add up. Plus, did I think he won that fight? No. Do you think he won that fight at home? No. But that's what the judges gave to him on the night. You can't really fault him for that. He's looking decent now. He did lose to Beneil Dariush pretty bad. He's coming off a good win against RDA, but RDA is not really a big name now at all. But still, you know, it's looking good. It's looking good. This would be a massive step up for Gamrot, because he's not really fought. Anytime he's fought anyone, like the most elite person he fought, you could argue at the time, was Beneil Dariush. Arman Tsarukyan wasn't exactly where he is now when he fought Gamrot. Obviously, Gamrot's wrestling scrambles are some of the best in the division, but I also think his striking is very limited. I don't think he'd actually be able to control Charles on the feet. I do think Charles will win this fight, and I do think he'd finish him. But it is a close fight because it's not the Charles of old anymore, unfortunately. But I still think he's one of the best in the world. In a fight, Arman Tsarukyan, that was so fucking close. Arman Tsarukyan's never got swept by anyone. He's always had a close fight with Islam, close with Gamrot. You know what I mean? His losses are fucking close, and his wins are clear. Apart from the Charles one, of course. But, you know what I mean? Like, Gamrot has a win over that guy. Now, obviously, MMA doesn't add up, like I always said. But I still think Charles will get this one done. I think he'd be able to just outwork him on the feet, and I don't think Gamrot has the ability to hold him down. We're talking about Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. The two best grapplers, probably two best wrestlers in lightweight, you know, I think. And I think Arman's probably got a better arsenal on the feet than Gamrot. Now, anyway, for sure. I think if they fought again, I think Arman would smoke him. Maybe not smoke him, but I think Arman would win that fight. And I still think Charles can be competitive with the best. I feel like this fight will definitely happen next, to be quite honest with you. I don't really see them making any other fight. I think Charles will be looking to get ready maybe around August, September. I know there's a pay-per-view in August and September. Why not have him on that? If there's a Rio card coming up, maybe headline that as a fight night against Gamrot. Why not? It would be sad to see Charles go back to headlining fight nights. But if it gets him back to the belt, who gives a fuck? It's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be very interesting to see. If Gamrot beats Charles, you know, why not have him for the belt next? He probably deserves it. It's very, very hard for me to look at you after beating Charles Oliveira and not look towards the title, to be quite honest with you. So that's what I think. I'd probably go with a Charles by second round KO, but it's a close fight. It's a close fight. So, Matchmaker Monday, episode 2. I have Izzy versus Dricus, Lerone Murphy versus Calvin Kattar, and Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching.